Welcome to Real Talk with Real Estate Pros, where we bring you exclusive interviews with the real estate experts. We'll delve deep into their journey to success and learn how to go the extra mile to serve their clients' wants and needs. Let's dive in. Here's your host, John Money McKinley.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Real Talk with Real Estate Pros. I know we were not here last week. Unfortunately, our guest last week was unable to make it, but we are back here today, and I do have a great guest scheduled for us. But as always, this is Real Talk with Real Estate Pros, heard live every day or every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Central Time. And I really appreciate you guys being a part of the show. We're here to really give people an idea of what's happening in the world of real estate in and around town here in the local Houston/Texas area. And we do bring on a lot of guests on the show that really dive deep into what's happening in and around town. And I want to ask you all to do me a favor, please. This channel has grown a little bit since I've started it a few months ago, and I appreciate y'all for that. But please do me a favor, like, subscribe, and share this out there with folks. Also, too, you can see my text number up here. If you guys know anyone who would like to be a guest on my show who's a real estate expert, please shoot me a text, reach out to me, and let me know. I would love to chat with them and possibly have them on the show. And with that said, I'd like to introduce you all to my guest here today. And his name is John Kane. And we're kind of going to go down a little bit different road today. We're already coming to the end of the first quarter. And as many of you all know, and many of my viewers on my show know, we do dive into the wonderful world of real estate investing. And I wanted to bring John on because he's an expert in helping businesses out and growing their businesses. And with that said, John, I appreciate you coming on this morning. Thank you very much.
No, it's my pleasure, John. I appreciate the invite and looking forward to diving into it.
Perfect. Well, why don't you do us a favor and kind of tell us a little bit about you and what you have going on. And like I said, the reason I brought you on here is we're already coming to the end of the first quarter. And let's be honest, we've had a lot go on since 2020. There's been a lot of craziness going on. And it's time to really dive into our mental mindset and really get that straight, especially for my viewers who own real estate. And I wanted to have you on as an expert that could kind of give us some advice on what folks can do to really get their businesses in line, especially in the world of real estate.
No, I appreciate it. So just give a quick introduction to myself. I'm based in Hong Kong, a little bit away from you, but it happens to be that most of the businesses or business owners that I typically work with are based over your side of the world. So quite versed in how that economy is currently and, how that can, of course, impact the people's business as we come towards the end of the first quarter. But for myself, I work a lot in the mindset side of things. Now, of course, business strategy, tactics are always going to be a vital part of business and anyone who wants to scale their business. But, from all the people that we've worked with, we've always found that unless their own mindset's in the right place, then it doesn't really matter, how good the tactic or strategy is. That'll only go as far as their mindset allows it. So it's my job to help them eliminate their own mindset limits so they can, become the best version of themselves. That way, all of these tactics and strategies and great tools that are available to business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate investors, that they can actually do consistently without getting in their own way. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm sure a lot of my viewers are very well aware of this. The most powerful thing that you have is the mind between your ears. I mean, it is something that's incredible. You can have the perfect blueprint on getting something done, but if what's between your ears isn't in the right place, it just won't work. And I know there's a lot of people out there, oh, real estate investing doesn't work, that doesn't work. Yet, time and time again, I myself have helped many investors go from no real estate owned to multiple properties owned. And I know of many real estate experts here and around the Houston and surrounding areas in Texas, Dallas, San Antonio, that have taken their real estate career to the next level. But a lot of it has to do with you've got to have the mental mindset right and get things going. And if you would kind of just dive in a little bit about what got you started into the mindset coaching.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think throughout my own journey, going all the way back to school, I never really knew what I wanted to do. I was always one of those people who really had no idea, not even the slightest intention of what I'd like to do as a career. So I chose a pretty generic path, do my bachelor's in Ireland, which led me to Bachelor of Arts, which led me to kind of a bit of a crossroads once I finished that of, what do I do next? Do I go and study for a master's in education or go on to be a teacher? Something, again, that I just didn't really feel excited about or felt like something that I really wanted to do. So I kind of took a bit of a chance and started to look at moving abroad, which brought me to Hong Kong, which, was quite obviously random at the time. Probably 2 months before I moved to Hong Kong, I didn't even really know where it was or that it, of course I heard of it, but without really knowing too much about it. It was, luck really, I suppose, and now I'd call it faith that led me here initially teaching, which I enjoyed for a number of years before moving into a leadership role within the school. Again, obviously felt excited and proud that I was able to get that promotion, but it still never really felt like something that I was going to do long term in the sense of, something that would really motivate me. I always felt I had more to contribute. It was then that I came across coaching, and I'm sure a lot of your audience would be familiar with Tony Robbins. That was the initial aha moment for me, as we would use in the coaching term, of just understanding what a coach was. I'd never really heard of that term before. I've always been big into exercise, but being a personal trainer wasn't something, again, that really felt super exciting to me. So it's when I first seen the title of coaching, I think it was a life coach or something like that, that it really, it really hit a spark in me. And it was like, oh, that's something I wanted to do. And, from that moment, that was going back before COVID, I pretty much dove straight in. I went and got my my certification with the International Coaching Federation, which was ACC level at the time. And last year I finished my PCC. Now, as most will know, coaching is very unregulated. You don't have to be certified to be a coach. But, again, I wanted to hold myself to high standards and find the best organization and, learn through them. So that's what led me into the coaching space. And since then, doing a lot of other self-development work, a lot of other courses around NLP, mindset specialist courses. I've done stuff around sleep. All this, always trying to add more tools to my toolbox as a coach to be able to help the high performer, the high achiever, because they're a very unique client in the sense of, time is always limited, right? In terms of they'll have a typically busy schedule already. So adding tons and tons of more stuff is not always what they need. In fact, a lot of the time it's eliminating stuff and then helping them work through that inner dialogue or narrative that might be keeping them stuck at a subconscious level. So that's pretty much where the mindset side of it came in, and it pretty much adapted from working with men initially to then starting to attract a lot of business owners into my world, which then led me to very much be focused on the business owner entrepreneur. And like I said, it just happens to be that I have quite a big following on Facebook. So most of my clientele comes from the US or Canada, which works well for me. I get to travel and do what I love to do as well. But that's where the coaching started. And like I said, I pretty much got it started right away, and then went full time within the last few years and really, try to take things up a notch with my own self-development too, which is a massive part of what I do. I'm a big believer in being the standard and working on myself consistently to elevate myself, but then also bring those around me up as well.
Oh, okay. So wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You're in China, Hong Kong, and
Mhm.
you are able to leave because what we hear over here in the States is it's nothing but slaves over there in prison camps.
No, no, it's all fine. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, we get a little bit different view of the world over here, which I'm sure you get a
hmm
whole lot different view of the States over here from where you're at as well
hmm
too.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it's a big part of the media, right? That typically don't, one of the reasons why I don't dive into it too often.
Exactly. And yeah, that's another reason I put this show together is I want to give people the truth about what's really happening and get the experts on, such as yourself, that can really dive in and let my audience know, hey, this is what's really going on. This is what really, really works. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, that you actually have the certification because you're absolutely right. Almost anybody can just put a banner up and go, hey, I'm a personal coach. Okay, great. But what certifications do you have? What clarifications do you have to justify that gives you that title? And that's good to hear that
Mm-hmm.
you have actually gone that extra step and said, hey, I'm going to get into this and I'm going to make sure I have the certificates available so I can present that to people and have credible things for people that's actually going to help take them from where they're at to the level they want to go.
Yeah, no, very much so. I think it's important. Like I said, there's a lot of coaches out there nowadays. There's a lot of good coaches, of course, but there's also a lot of people that hop on the bandwagon of, uh, just you can do a weekend course or something that gives you some basic information, and then people, want to go out and coach. And again, people have different skill sets that they can bring for sure. But for me personally, again, I always wanted to have a certain path of where I was taking my coaching, and I knew it was something that I wanted to be very serious about. And in terms of going in and being able to work with, big organizations, big corporate companies here locally, and worldwide, and that does definitely require that little bit more expertise. They look for those certifications, especially, for example, the International Coaching Federation is probably the global standard in terms of the most certified coaches, and the code of ethics and stuff that they have around coaching. That is definitely a super important part of it. And again, from my own standard of wanting to be able to be the best coach, because there's tons of different skill sets you can bring, and introduce things like training and consulting, and come at things from different approaches. But having that skill set of being able to actually coach gives me that extra layer of having the questions to be able to ask people, that helps them unlock that different perspective, different opinion, that sometimes, people who maybe become a coach and have an expertise in, say, business, for example, we have a lot of business coaches out there now. They may have the business knowledge, but don't necessarily have that coaching background of, how to actually help someone shift their perspective or helps coach someone through a certain situation. So there's a line almost between coaching and mentoring. Or a lot of people now are business coaches, but in a lot of senses it's more business mentoring, really, because it's more that consultant approach of, telling them how to do it, and helping them through that, versus coaching can very much be that more of an approach of helping the person unlock the answers for themselves. When we find out, or we tell ourselves why we need to do it, it's always much easier to actually do it. So that's a big part of coaching, and one of the reasons why, again, I wanted to have that real skill set, which I knew would be so important moving forward.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you letting me know that because I wasn't even aware there was any type of certificates for people to be an actual coach. I just thought
Mm.
anybody could. Hey, I just, hey, I'm a coach today.
Yeah, pretty much. There's a couple of great organizations. Obviously, there's the Tony Robbins has some form of coaching certification. John Maxwell, of course, have their leadership coaching certification programs, and then the ICF. So there is a couple of really high tier ones, and then you have maybe some middle tier, lower tier, which is just basically certifications that are not necessarily accredited by any kind of governing body or third party. So it's just, for me, for example, I could put together a certification to certify coaches, And that would potentially certify these coaches, but it would be me who's certifying them, not necessarily an actual global organization. So yeah, I think it is important. Again, depending on the person and the industry, but for me personally, it's just important to have the high standards for myself to always, put myself at the top of the industry.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you letting us know that and letting my audience know that. I also wanted to ask you, how do you identify and address some common mental barriers that are preventing people from really reaching their full potential? Because that, especially in the world of real estate, I know when a lot of investors I work with, when they're first starting to get into it, they have so much mental fear going on that's holding them back from actually just pulling the trigger and making something happen. It's almost like they've got a crutch, and it's like if you just put down the crutch, you'll be able to walk. It's okay.
No, that's a great question. I think one of the things that we again would typically see, I think it always comes back to that lack of self-worth or fear of failure. That deeper insecurity that for a lot of people it can be very unconscious. There's a quote from Carl Jung that I always felt summed up mindset very well in terms of the self-awareness aspect to it, which was, until we bring the unconscious to the conscious, it will continue to direct your life, and we'll call it faith. And I think that's what happens to, so many people on their path, that ultimately leads to them never being able to, reach the outer limits of their potential. That deeper, I think a lot of it stems from, fear of not belonging, fear of not being good enough. And, you can have multiple things break out from that. But the whole idea of, lack of self-worth. And a lot of the time it can even be the fear of being seen as a failure, right? It's not always us failing necessarily, it's how we'll be perceived. So a lot of it comes back to that ego, that we carry, our self-image, how we see ourselves. And I think that's why mindset from that perspective of self-awareness is so important, because until we really start to, dig down into the layers and address some of those stories that we carry, and it could be, going back 10, 20, 30 years from when you're in school, previous experiences within a business or previous experience in real estate, for example, that will create a certain perception that you will then carry in an expectation into your future deals, right? And we always kind of revert back to that story over and over, because it becomes almost our safety net. And what can happen to some people when they get into that cycle is, because they start to almost expect the failure, maybe they've tried different things in the past, whether it be a business, career, it could be something related to their health or relationships. You see patterns in relationships where people go down the same relationships over and over. We create almost an expectation that it's not going to work out. And somehow we find a way to sabotage ourselves to that place. And then we almost allow ourselves to take the back door because we have an expectation that it's okay, I've kind of failed in the past, therefore I kind of expect that I'll fail again. So it's really retraining that narrative that we have. And as Carl Jung said, bringing that unconscious to the conscious, so we can start to learn some of our own inner dialogue. I know we've probably only connected on Facebook quite recently, but, I ask a lot of thought-provoking questions just to kind of gauge people's mindsets and where their thinking levels are at. And we always have certain people who will fall into the victim trap of, life is happening to me, versus those who will have that perspective of life is happening for me, and the challenges that are happening for me in order for me to grow. And I think that's such a big part of it. And for me as a coach, when I have conversations with people, that's always number one, when you start to identify some of their patterns. But I think, again, as a coach, it's also important for me not to, just try to stop them and try to give my input, because that's also just my perspective and my bias, right? They could be impacted off my own story. So it's always up to me, again, we call it like 360 coaching, where you help them flip the perspective, or you help them shine the light on a different aspect of, I think I shared the quote the other day of, a good coach will help you see what you cannot see. And I think that's an important way of framing it. It's there for you to see, you just don't see it right now. So by asking good questions and helping you shift your frame, then you can start to see it for yourself rather than me telling you, no, this is how it is and this is the way you should think. Their brain is going to call BS on that because it only believes what you believe, you tell it, not what someone else tells it. So that's, again, where as a coach, it can be difficult at the beginning because you have to try to guide them around that story back to something that's more empowering and something that they can change over time rather than trying to just interfere and show them the way because they most likely always revert back to that story unless they find it for themselves.
You bring up that victim mindset mentality, which unfortunately in 2024, it just seems to be so rampant amongst people. And that's such a debilitating thing you can allow to happen to you. I learned this a long time ago. The greatest way to basically make yourself a prisoner and a slave is to go, you know what? All my problems in my life have nothing to do with me. It's him, it's her, it's them, it's the man, it's the system. It's everything is out to get me. And guess
Mm-hmm.
what? Once you get that mindset, you take away all your power, you take away all your strength, and now you're open up for the latest person to come in and go, I'm your savior. I'm insert whatever you want there, big government or which they seem to be always ready there to help people. Oh, we're here to help you.
No, it's very true. We in NLP, for example, it would be called that, like I said, people who take ownership and see life as happening for them versus the ones who have that more of a victim mentality and see it as it's happening to them. And, usually the ones who see that it's happening for them will have results for their efforts. The ones who see it happening to them will have reasons why, right? That they're not successful because of this, or this. Now, of course, things happen, right? We can't change what happens to us, but we can certainly change the meaning we give it and how we react to the situation. So that's always something I think that's so important because yes, crappy things happen in life, and it's something that I always, again, talk to my business owners about. Like there's challenges are going to happen, right? You're going to get bad deals. You're going to, a good client just about to come through the door and suddenly something happens and you lose that client. It's in those moments how you pick yourself up and how you deal with it and how you frame it that matters most, right? Like you can fall into the victim of, oh, why me? And I really needed that sale or I really needed that project. Or you can, move on to the next one and say, that one didn't work out because the next one's going to be even better. Like that narrative that you carry is so important in terms of stopping the cycles of sabotage that we have, or, where we regress or we basically retreat when something doesn't go right. So I always like that idea of, when it happens to us or for us, that we see it, we have results. And when we have the victim mentality, we typically have reasons. So I think it's always that line of ownership and trying to see like what part can I play or what can I do differently as the individual. We can't control the outcomes or control, what the world gives us really, but we can certainly control our side of things. And a lot of that is, again, how we think, how we feel, and how we behave on a daily basis.
Exactly. And I mean, it's amazing how much power you have when you just go into the bathroom and look into the mirror and go, hey, we got to fix this. We've got to come to a solution here. We have to do this and get this done. It gives you back so much power. Yes, you do want to have people to help you, and that is something that I've learned a long time ago, that you want to have the right type of coaches in your corner that are there that can guide you, because it's very hard a lot of times to see when you're in the middle of the woods or the middle of the battle of day to day making things happen. It's always a great to have somebody that can kind of take a look from more of a, stepped away from it perspective and point out and go, oh, okay, here's what I see going on. Here's where you need to focus as well. Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, because you were in the middle of dealing with this situation here. It helps out so much in people's development, people's growth in life as they're growing.
Yeah, very much so. I think, you summed it up pretty well there in terms of like coaching. We can't really coach ourselves because we have our own biases and our own perceptions, and maybe it's our business or it's our relationship, it's our life. So we have those, certain filters that we hold on to, and we'll, argue for them even when we know they're not right in certain situations, because we always want to be right. So, that's where even good coaches have their own coaches, and their coaches typically have coaches or mentors too, because we all require that shift in perspective, or someone who can help us see it from a different angle, but also, holding ourselves accountable sometimes too, because, in business, for example, where, a business owner is often only as successful as the person they're holding them accountable to. And a lot of the time they don't have that, right? Because it's their project or it's their business. And, sometimes they can struggle with that side of things in terms of not having someone above them to hold them accountable. So a lot of people I work with, that's what they really enjoy, is just having that extra layer of accountability for themselves. And sometimes it's not even to do with their business, it's other things within their life that are super, super important as well, that are easy to neglect, or, where we maybe drop our standards in other areas because of pursuit of success in our career. So it's always trying to, me as a coach, again, help them shine the light on different areas of their life, and help them show them that mirror in terms of when they need to hold themselves accountable and when they need to make changes. But really just trying to get them on that path to consistency and sustainability, where they're not really getting in their own way as much, because of they have such a good understanding of themselves, who they are, how they show up in the world, and they're always constantly on that journey then of continuous and improvement to get better.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate that. And like I said, I really appreciated you being on here. Just so you know, my show is only about a 30-minute show, and we are getting kind of close here. But I definitely want to ask you, what is one good piece of advice that you can give to my viewers on what they should really look at as far as the mental mindset? What is the number one thing they should really dig inside themselves and go, okay, I need to focus on this area here right now to help get my mental mindset in the correct order it needs to be?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would always recommend that it's something that my coach shared before, the idea of people always asking what books to read, and he would always respond, read the book of you, your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors, because that's what you really need to change. What you're looking for in a book is often just the surface level solution. You're trying to fix something that's really just a manifestation of what's happening below the surface for you, at an unconscious level. So just spending time really diving in. And I like to journal. It helps me a lot in terms of, bringing some of that the language to the surface. I become so much more aware now of, when certain emotions get heightened, and it's often not really for any particular reason. It's just a pattern, whether it's about to go on a call or about to do a presentation, you start to suddenly get these sweaty palms, and it's just a reaction. It's like a pattern that you've had or you've built up over time. But once you bring awareness to it, it gives you the opportunity to change it, right? You can start to tell yourself a better story then, and move it in the opposite direction, because a lot of those stories that we have and carry, they're not real, right? They're just our beliefs and what we believe to be true based off what's happened to us up to this point of our life. But they're just really, stuff that we created in our imagination, and meaning we give to certain situations that we can change, at a whim if we choose to. So really just bringing awareness to their own language, what they feel on a daily basis, what type of thoughts are kind of dominant for them that are non-serving. Do they have those I'm not good enough thinking patterns, or what if I fail, or this always happens to me? Like, what is that language pattern like? And then how are they behaving that's non-serving? Are they skipping their workouts, or eating crappy food, or maybe they're supposed to meet someone for real estate investment, but they cancel, right? And they're trying to come up with reasons why that was the right idea to cancel. But in reality, they're, avoiding something that they know they should deal with. So really bringing more awareness to that, and then taking in the opposite direction of, like, who is it you want to be? What type of person do you want to become? Or what type of person do I need to be in order to have the business or the career or the life that I want to have? And then slowly start stepping into that identity, and, adopting the traits of that person and the type of values that person would have, and the way that person would think and feel on a daily basis. And it's really that repetition over and over. And all of a sudden that old story that they carry, starts to just get that little bit quieter and quieter, and that new story then starts to become the dominant story that they carry.
Well, it's glad you brought that up. It's amazing how you can look back in your past and see, oh, this and this and this is what's happened to me. But then you can talk to your brother, your sister, or your mother and your father, and they're like, well, no, that's not exactly how it went down. It went down this way. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing that happened, but it's just amazing just having a different perspective of things
Mm,
and looking at
yes.
things from a different angle. Good
Yeah.
example I always like to give to people is you can be sitting there, two people are just having an argument back and forth at each other, trying to take each other's heads off. And I use it as a description of, let's say, John, that you and I are looking at a pickup truck. Okay. Well, you're looking at the front end of the pickup truck and I'm looking at the back end of the pickup truck, but we don't know that we're both looking at a different end of the pickup truck. And I'm sitting
Mhm.
there getting mad at you and go, "What do you mean there's a clear thing on the front there to the passenger side? I'm looking at it right now and it's clearly red. Are you crazy?"
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, it's a great example. Or, just 10 different people watching a movie, right? They all have a different experience or a different viewpoint of it, but in reality, they're all, taking in the same information. It's just been filtered differently, based off of the different perceptions and biases and tendencies that they have.
Exactly. It's the same. The movies, songs are another thing too. I mean, you can have
Mhm.
a song where you can talk to two different people and get it completely. Oh, you got that out of that song, or you got this out of that song, and then you listen to the artist who created the song, and he's like, "Well, no, actually, it was about this."
Exactly. Yeah.
Three different, completely different perspectives. However, it still has that in there. It fascinates me with that.
Yeah, exactly. A great example, right?
Oh yeah. No, well, I really appreciate you having you on today, John. And I wanted to share this with my viewers because I know that you put together this page here for everybody
hmm
that they can actually, if they want to find out more, they can actually come and get some free items from you and some worksheets. Would you please dive in a little bit into this and kind of explain what you're
hmm
offering?
Yeah, for sure. So, one of, again, big problems that we would typically see with people in the business world is wanting to decrease their stress because, managing a business or being a high performer requires usually more mental and emotional challenges that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, whether it be, being a leader, running a team. So, and one thing everyone wants to improve is their management of time, right? How can we be a bit more efficient and effective with our time and still get what we need to get done? So, we put together this workbook and it comes with a mini training as well to help people actually. Always try to make my trainings practical so people can actually take something away, and that's why I like to create a workbook with each training. So, people can not just watch the video like they would on a YouTube, something on YouTube and out without actually taking action. So actually having a workbook to go along with it to help them reduce some of that overwhelm and stress levels and start to understand themselves a bit more and how to be better at planning their week to be a bit more efficient.
Nice. I like that. And everybody, this will be down in the link in the description of this show. I recommend you get this. I mean, you've really put a lot of time into this. You're giving them the workbook and giving them a lot of great tips. Is there any other ways that we should recommend people get a hold of you? I know you and I met via Facebook. Is there any other
hmm
ways, being that you're in China?
Yeah,
Not that
pretty
easy
much.
to pick up the phone and give you a call unless you have a great international calling plan.
Yeah. Facebook is probably the best way. You'll see me on Facebook, John Kane. We can probably share it somewhere, but I have a couple of Facebook groups. One for called the Mindset Club for Life and Business. So people who are similar to your audience, where we run some bi-weekly trainings. There's lots of different resources in there as well, past trainings and tools and stuff. We have about 2,000 people in that group or more, and almost 3,000 now. So people are welcome to come and find that group and welcome to be a member and utilize the conversations inside and the resources available.
Okay. Once again, John, I really appreciate you having you on today, and thank you very much for taking the time to share this with my audience, and thank you very much for offering them this great free training in the workbook. And if you would stick around, I'm going to put you back in the green room here in a minute and say goodbye to my
Okay.
audience, and I will talk with you shortly.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, thank everybody. I appreciate you all being here today. Once again, please do me a favor, like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if you know anybody who would like to be a guest on my show, they think it'd be a great guest to let my audience know more about what's going on in the wonderful world of real estate and business around town, please shoot me a text. I'd love to chat with them. Thank you. See y'all next week.